Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the 2019 FIA Formula 1 World Championship, round 5 of the season, Spanish Grand Prix. Now, obviously, just excuse me one, put some stuff off underneath. Yeah, so we came into this Grand Prix and pretty much thinking what's happened to Ferrari. Obviously, for Mercedes would never thought they'd dominate the way they have and get 4-1-2s. And Ferrari questioning who's number one, who's number two, team orders this, team orders that. And wondering where's the pace? Where's the pace that they had in Barcelona in pre-season testing? And again, even the Spanish Grand Prix, it's shown what happens in the space of 10 weeks. Some people say, yeah, well, Mercedes were sandbagging, but a lot of people, not just Toto Wolff, have said from Mercedes that they didn't think they had this pace. They literally thought they were on the back foot, and that's what it looked like. So even on the last day of testing, Ferrari dominated, and that's when usually Mercedes started turning it up a bit. So Ferrari needed to show what they were made of and what the car had. And they didn't again. In qualifying, they could only get a third. And unfortunately, Verstappen splitting the Ferraris in fourth. And there's Mercedes again knocking out the front row. And again, with Mercedes, it was pretty much because everyone's on an equal car, on equal basis. It's really whoever gets into turn one first that really wins the Grand Prix for them, unless things happen during the race. And that's what happened, really. Though Bottas had a stunning lap in qualifying and Hamilton made a couple of mistakes, which led to him being second, his starts has been impressive, absolutely immense, and I'm blown away by the way he starts a Grand Prix at the minute, because it's usually him that's slow off the line, but he seemed to be jumping Bottas quite frequently, and he did it again in Spain. And from then on, it was pretty much things getting worse for Ferrari. Mercedes swamping away while they're too busy fighting with Vettel and Leclerc over who's got the more pace and who hasn't. Leclerc looked like he had more pace, but then they took 3 laps too long to make anything different. And that went on throughout the Grand Prix. And then Vettel had the pace because he had new tyres. Leclerc was going longer, or I believe shorter. He was going longer, I believe. And then came up in the end after his stop, and he said he had more pace. So they were just chopping and changing while doing all this and getting confused about who's doing what and what strategy. Mercedes were romping away, and so was Verstappen. They were all trying to focus on trying to get Verstappen and try and at least get on the podium. But it didn't seem to happen because Verstappen jumped them at turn one, and because of all this arguing between who's faster, who's not, they didn't maximise the pace in the car or the time that they've lost on track making those decisions, and it's led to them being fourth and fifth and scratching their heads as to what's gone wrong so far this season. The last 2 seasons, it usually was Ferrari have been on the pace and Mercedes have lagged behind, and it's usually down to Hamilton and the Mercedes team to cope with the second half of the season. But unfortunately, this time it's the other way around. It's Ferrari looking like now they're on a back foot, though they showed so much promise, and Mercedes are all dominant and dominating through strategy and the right calls in the right times. And again, you had the safety car during the Grand Prix. That didn't change much. It gave everyone they needed for a second stop, including Hamilton, because Bottas had just literally pitted before the lap before, or 2 laps before. So that obviously settled the race after that. And now we sit here with Ferrari having a 96-point gap in the Constructors' Championship. Mercedes with Bottas and Hamilton, they're in a completely other level in the Drivers' Championship. And we now head to Monaco, which, though Ferrari need to win, they need to win. Either one of them need to win. We're sitting there thinking, well, Monaco, it's Monaco plus Red Bull equals marriage made in heaven. That's usually where Red Bull turn up, and they did in 2016, but they screwed up in the pit stops. 2017, they just didn't have the pace in the car. 2018, they dominated. We get 2010, 2011, 2012. So that's usually their stomping ground because they're so good at generating downforce at low speed corners. And I'll go to a preview, and I'll probably say this in my preview, but I still think Mercedes will get ahead of Ferrari on that one, because Ferrari just don't look to have the downforce they have. Where they're going in terms of philosophy with the new regulations doesn't seem to be coinciding with what Mercedes are going with, and Mercedes seem to be the stronger. So maybe they need to change that, but it all depends if the car can suit that. It's not, you can't just take one part, copy one part of a car and put it onto yours, because you don't know if it's going to correlate with everything else to work. So a lot of head scratching needs to be done at Maranello, and a lot of thinking needs to be done about. Otherwise, they're going to just let this championship slip away on what looked like to be the fastest car. It's proved in Bahrain it had the pace. It stomped everyone by at least a second in qualifying in Bahrain. So where's it gone? It's there somewhere. Where's it gone? So yeah, they need to win either the next race or Canada. Canada will probably be more likely Ferrari because they are better. They have more power down the straights than Mercedes. They have got a lot more power generating out of the corners. They had that from last season, about halfway through last season. Then they've seemed to carry it forward to this season, and that's something that for a Mercedes need to catch up on. It's weird now we're saying Mercedes are lagging behind Ferrari in terms of engine power, whereas usually Mercedes have been the all dominant in the new turbo hybrid era. So Canada would probably be, if Ferrari don't win that and Mercedes find some way of beating them at Canada, they need to start worrying about second position and securing that, because Verstappen, I'm going to shout out Verstappen, he is in the form of his life. A lot of people criticised him last season. I was one to criticise him last season, but I did recognise that he was a quality driver. A lot of people say, yeah, he's this, he's reckless, he's this, he's that. Hamilton was the same. Vettel was the same. Alonso was the same. Button was the same. Button nearly took people out in the formation lap, so, when he first started at Williams. So it happens to the best of drivers. All the best drivers have that period when they've just started Formula One, where no matter what happens, they have incidents. Hamilton had it in 2011 with Massa all the time. Vettel had it with Webber in Fuji, and has had it with Button in 2010, Turkey, Istanbul 2010. So they've all done it, and now look at where Vettel and Hamilton are. One's a 4-time world champion, one's a 5-time world champion. So all credit to Verstappen, he's taken that on board and he's come out a much better driver. And that's probably down to also probably the fact that Vettel and Hamilton took him aside after those incidents and explained that they were in the same position as him, and that he is pretty much a future world champion. Don't deny that. You put him in the fastest car, he'll probably beat everyone. So yeah, it's sort of now like a disappointing start, really, because though I'm a Hamilton fan, I'd love to see a battle between Mercedes and Ferrari like last season, because it was so tense. Didn't know which way it was going to swing. So, and it's the same with the season before. So it's sort of disappointing that it's just between Mercedes at the minute. So I'm hoping Ferrari can challenge them this time, at least at Monaco or not Canada. But yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts on the Grand Prix. I'd love to know what you're thinking. Do you think Ferrari have really screwed up and they need to start thinking about second in the constructors, or do they need to find some way of improving their car to be able to compete with Mercedes, or improving their strategy? Because in both areas, Mercedes is dominant. I will shout out one thing as well. It shows the class of Lewis Hamilton. Um, on Twitter, there was, I think they've probably seen it in the news about the terminally ill kid who's a massive Hamilton fan and sent him a message via Twitter or Instagram. And Hamilton saw that message, dedicated the race to him, and he didn't just do that either. He got Mercedes to turn up at their doorstep and build the car on their doorstep for him, since it was the first time he'd been out since Easter. Not this Easter, the Easter before. He's terminally ill with cancer, and you do something like that to give him a bit of joy. I've been there myself. I've not terminally ill, obviously, but I know what it's like to be ill, really ill, and not be able to go out or do anything like that. And to be able to see your hero, like Lewis Hamilton is a hero of mine, to go out and be able to distract you for 2 hours of whatever's going on in your life, to give you a little bit of joy and support with stuff like Still I Rise and all those terms that come out with. It's so uplifting, and it just helps you get through the day and through tough times. And when I go to the British Grand Prix, I'm going to thank him for doing that for me. So, but it shows the class of Lewis Hamilton. He registers that, and getting them to build the car outside their house so he could sit in it and have a look at it was just incredible. And shout out to Hamilton, because I don't remember not many drivers do that for their fans, so that's absolutely unbelievable. So, but yeah, leave a like, comment, subscribe. I'd love to know your thoughts. And yes, I'll be back with a preview of round 6, which is the jewel in the Formula 1 calendar. It's the one they all want to win, the Monaco Grand Prix. Thanks for listening.